Hello, hi, Judy here. Welcome back to Sun River Chambers Lunch at Home and Learn. And Zoom is having a problem today. There's a black box that I'm not able to get rid of. I'm sure it'll be in the next update. But welcome. And we do this every Tuesday at noon Pacific. There's a link in the Sun River Chambers newsletter or on my site, and you can feel free to take a picture of that for every week. And welcome. Today we're going to talk about good versus poor posture and their effects on us, on our bodies and our minds, and what our body language says about us. Also, how to improve our posture. I've got some great tips for you. Again, if this is your first time, the audience is muted and there's time for Q&A. You have the option to control your video or audio, and always recorded on my site within a day. If you have a question, feel free to use the chat box to everyone or me privately. I'll get to it when I can. And this is my business about relieving stress. And that's a big topic today in today's world, absolutely. So I specialize in 3 disciplines. Qigong we did the first week, acupressure point tapping the second, and today I'd like to talk about posture and stride and how it affects our health and our mood and our body language. There we go. And you know what? We can all read it. We can all read each other's posture or body language. May not know it, but we can. There are subconscious clues we're getting from reading everyone. Often why I hear, I just didn't like that person right off the bat. Maybe there's something to unveil in one's body posture. Here's me back in 1983 on the left. I had no idea my posture was so zigzaggy, but I think that my torso leaning back had a lot to do with moving around a lot as a kid, and it made me really shy. I was a wallflower, let's put it that way. But to counteract it, the torso leaning back, my head had to lean quite far forward so that I wouldn't fall backwards. And there was a lot of compression in my low back because it shouldn't be that much of an angle in one's posture. You can see how I shifted over about 6 or 8 months, got out of a lot of low back pain, shoulder, neck pain, and that's what I want to share with you today. There's me on the right, and the other piece that I didn't share earlier is that my abdomen was sticking out. I didn't have a lot of strong core musculature going on at the time. That's going to be a key piece to helping us stay upright, like the guy in the middle. Here are some average people walking along and just checking out their posture. We might think that this gentleman is really focused on his talk that he's about to give. But if he's standing with rolled forward shoulders all the time, that's going to affect his neck and shoulder tension. And your head weighs a lot, especially if you're looking at your phone down here at your chest, the way a lot of people do. Your head becomes heavier and heavier and heavier the more you drop it forward. And over time, it'll cause a lot of distress to your neck and shoulders. The average person walking along looks down. You know what? We can lift up and just drop our eyes to see the ground. We can see quite a lot doing that. We don't have to have the stress in our necks. Here's a young gal that looked like I did when I was a teenager, backward leaning torso, a lot of compression. If she ever puts on any weight in her low back, would cause low back pain. and her neck and head are angled forward so that she can still stay upright in space. And then there's the arms crossed across the chest, which is often a sign of, don't talk to me, or I'm shy, perhaps. And this guy is more upright, but I just wanted you to see the angle of his feet. Now, our feet are not meant to angle out to the left and right that much. Ideally, they're meant to be facing forward because our knee joints are only meant to open and close and not shear off to the sides. Eventually, if he doesn't already, this gentleman's probably going to have some pain in his knees or hips. And here's a famous picture of an actor walking along, I think in New York City, and he's either cold or he's hunched over. I think he was kind of a shy guy, James Dean. So he could be expressing more confidence if he were standing upright. Now, body language can say a lot of things, like I'm overwhelmed, leaning back, or pressure. If we have a lot of pressure in our lives, sometimes it translates to a compressed spine, or leaning forward and, I was having to get ahead and thinking about tomorrow instead of today. Or it could be, I'm sad, like that young gal leaning back, or arms crossed, don't talk to me, or I'm shy. All of those were me, the sadness and the shyness from moving. And you know what? Even if we don't feel it right away, sitting up tall through our spine can portray confidence. It can portray strength and happiness if you add a smile. So, all good to know. Now, this guy either needs glasses pretty badly, or his screen is just much too far away. He's also not using his back support at all. He's got a nice looking chair there. And his shoulders, neck, etc., low back are going to be hurting by the end of the day. I teach ergonomics in the business environment, and this is pretty common. We get so involved in our screen, we're just in it, and we forget, we sort of tune out the chronic pain, but you can resolve it by getting your computer set just so. Sitting up tall. The top of your screen ought to be about where your eyes are projecting forward, approximately. So just know that. Now, poor posture can really cause body pain, as I've said, but it can also decrease brain and organ function, because as we compress our spine, let gravity take over, each of the nerves that comes out of the spinal cord, off the spinal cord between the vertebrae, ought to be innervating all these different organs to their full capacity, but compression squishes them and decreases their functionality. So lifting up tall through your spine is really important for all your organs to work. Also, if you compress your spine, you're not only affecting the nerves to the lungs, but also it's harder to breathe if you're compressed in your torso. So lifting up tall, you will be able to reach your full breath capacity. It's been proven that we take less prescription drugs when our posture is good, and it really can affect our moods in the very best of ways. So, we talked about Qigong last time, or the first time, and it allows, sitting tall allows you to have your qi, your life force, flow to its maximum capacity. So another advantage to an uplifted spine. So here's a video I'd like to show you. It'll take me a moment to pull it up. But the difference between slouching and uplifted walking posture is very clear. This is the way most of us walk when we're not taught how to stand tall and move properly. Let's watch again. Thinking about what's going on in life versus an awareness of our posture. What I see here is that my head is forward of my spine. My shoulders are rounded forward, and my ankles don't have very much movement. See if you see all that. What kind of pressed or overwhelmed or sad, perhaps. Now, uplifted walking, learning to lift up through your spine, looks like that. What's happening here is my head is right on top of my spine, my chest is lifted, and my ankles have more movement, like a panther paw. Heel to toe roll. And I'll exaggerate it here. It really is like riding a unicycle, as I imagine riding a unicycle would be, not having done it actually. Let's go back to the slides. So the movement system I learned was taught to me by a famous dancer, and she incorporated the core and common principles to Pilates, yoga, dance, and the martial arts, including Qigong. Really though, you know, we were better off when we were on all fours. I mean, as evolution of our species, it got harder as we stood upright because we had to adapt our abdominal muscles and low back muscles, and we just didn't get this manual when we came into this world, right? But some of the benefits of good posture and stride are absolutely we can get out of pain. We can stand taller, look more confident, stronger, less likely to fall if we do fall, because we'll have stronger core musculature, then easier to get up, and lighter moods. Lighter moods are a big part of it. This is what good posture looks like. And I'm not talking about the folks with the umbrellas. Look at the dancers. Upright spine, shoulder blades are down and together, which lifts the chest, especially in the, well, you can see it in both of the dancers. It's quite beautiful. Another example, both of them have been taught to lift upright and to lift their chests a bit. Do you remember these people from Downton Abbey? Matthew, the guy, you know, it took them years to get together, right? And so Matthew eventually dies. And after that, I started calling it Downer Abbey. I just couldn't believe it that they'd done that. But here they are dancing. And what's happening here is the dancer's frame. Dancers are taught to maintain their own frame, squared off to their partner. They're upright through their spine. They're lifted in their chests. Their heads are right on top of their spine. And they move together, but they're each responsible for their own posture. It's very cool. So do you know the story of the Elephant Man? Because it's quite an amazing story. During the Victorian times, there was this really shy, intelligent, lovely man who had a hard time because he had elephantitis, which is this swelling, huge masses of extra skin. So you felt for this person. I saw it first on the dance theater in San Francisco, and the actor playing the Elephant Man moved hunched over, walked with a cane, and he looked like he was about 80 years old. He looked like he hurt a lot, and he probably did, the original story. But story was told, curtains close, and we're watching the curtains, and then some beautiful, young, buffed, athletic man comes out, and he's moving so elegantly, clearly he's a dancer, back and forth, and he takes a bow, and we're all looking at him like, who's this? When in fact it was the man who played the Elephant Man, the lead role. It was amazing to watch how he could mold his body into an old person with a lot of pain, and then also unmold himself to present beautifully on the stage at the end. Kind of a great story of our ability to shift our posture. And I don't see any comments in the chat room. Feel free anytime though. Now here's the system that I studied with this famous dancer I'll introduce you to in a moment. Movement therapy, or dance therapy, uses movement to help a person deal with an illness, both physical and mental, disability, or life challenges that help us from functioning, that keep us from functioning fully. And its aim is to bring us up into our full potential and emotional well-being. Here's the woman I studied with. Her name is Halperin, and if you're from Northern California, you might know her. She's absolutely famous in the dance world. And she was my teacher, but in effect, as you learn from me, she would be your grand teacher. She had cancer as a younger woman, and because she was already a dancer, she decided to express herself, her pain and her frustration and her sadness and her grief through her dance. And she started a school that many students have been through. In fact, her dance studio, outside dance studio in Kentfield, is where I studied with her. And it was extraordinary. She's an extraordinary woman. She actually just turned 100 last month. So, you know what? I saw her at the age of 75 do a presentation, do a dance on the stage in San Francisco. At 75, she was able to curl up in a ball on the stage and uncurl, and she was so fluid and graceful. So it is something we can have as we get older. Now here's a really good exercise to do. You may not want to do a lot of complicated dance moves, but here's something that will help all of us, no matter what our fitness level. And the goal is to build some strength in your low abdominal muscles. So here we go. Just take a deep breath. Deep into your belly, deep in through your lungs, like you're filling up like a balloon. And as you exhale, pull your abdominal wall to your backbone. And then release. Another full deep breath. So every time you breathe and exhale, as you pull your abdominal wall to your backbone, you're strengthening those muscles. So we have an opportunity every breath we take. Let's try a few more. Deep inhale. Exhale, pull your belly to your backbone. That's a great reminder phrase. Inhale. Exhale, pull your abs to your backbone. Inhale. Exhale, belly to backbone. Every time you remember, you are strengthening your abdominal core, your core musculature that they talk so much about in dance and Pilates and yoga. So let me share another video for you. Check out the hand position my hand position when I'm upright. My hands are the side of my thighs. Then as I begin to slouch, my hands come to the front of my thighs. It's just a reminder, if you feel your fingertips on your front of your thighs when you're standing, try lifting up tall through your spine. And notice the angle of my chest. It's lifted at about 45 degrees up and out. It's a dancer's trick. They use that to make it look like they're floating or flying. Notice again as I go into a slouch that the angle of my chest is actually dropping down toward the ground. You also can't see my chest at all. It disappears. Here's a great exercise to do to help you undo the effects of rolled forward shoulders. It's the backward shoulder roll. You lift up, back, down, and around. Up, back, and down. So you're squeezing your shoulder blades together and down. That lifts your chest, yeah? Here's another exercise you can do. Lifting my hands overhead. Now as I let my arms float down, I'm staying tall through my spine. My shoulders are dropping a little bit, but not my spine. My spine is staying lifted. What you don't want to do is this same exercise, lifting tall through your spine, but then letting it all go when you release your arms. So I'm letting the compression and the slouching come back into my body. Stay lifted. Here's the same exercise from the front. Lifting tall through your spine. Now I'm going to maintain the lift through my spine as my shoulder girdle and arms float down. What it looks like from the front if you don't stay uplifted, as your arms come down, the compression comes back, the slouching comes back. So stay tall and lifted and you will look wonderful. And just a reminder, lift your arms overhead, stay tall through your spine, then release your arms while staying tall through your spine. And you've got it made. And the older we get, the more I'd recommend we make these changes slowly and compassionately. It absolutely is possible to make changes. We are malleable, but if you're 10 years old, it's going to happen a lot faster than if you're 60. That's just the way it is. However, I'd like to leave you with some inspiring stories I've heard recently. I read in the Yoga Journal of a 90-year-old woman who had severe kyphosis, which is very severe rolling forward of the spine. What's it called? The widow's hump. Yeah. And anyway, in about a year's time, with a lot of dedication and some good readjustment exercises, she was able to stand upright again. It was incredible. Also, another story comes from my Qigong master. He said his father didn't start practicing Qigong until he was in his 70s, and he didn't even know about the lotus position, which is where you sit on the floor in an uplifted posture to meditate. But the full lotus position is, most of us perhaps could sit, unless you have bad knees, you could sit with your legs crossed on the floor to some degree. The half lotus is where you tuck your foot into the opposite knee's crook, and the full lotus is when both feet are almost facing up to the ceiling, tucked in your knees. So he did that at 75. So we've all got the potential. By the way, I have a wonderful video school that has this complete course of posture and stride and how to maintain it. Here's the link. You take a picture of that, or I'll put it up on my site too when we're done. Highly recommend it. I appreciate your being here with me today. Next week, I'll be teaching a walking and hiking biomechanics class at this time, Tuesday at noon. So the Chambers invited Dr. Bill Miller to come speak on end-of-life care choices. And I get that it's a topic we don't maybe want to face, but guess what? If we do, then we can enjoy the life we have right now. He wants to be sure that your wishes are honored. Look forward to seeing that talk. Any questions, comments, please do email me at judy@judycameron.com. And I thank you. Take good care. Talk soon.